Everyone here knows we're in a time of climate crisis, and it all comes down to the seed, and we really need to support people's movements and support the seed. And I'm honored to be able to introduce Dr. Vandana Shiva from India here tonight to be able to talk about the work, and hoping that all of you can help support this work. And of course, this is a prelude to the conference that's happening this weekend. Justice begins with seeds, because justice really does begin with seeds, and Vandana will talk about how that is, which is really about movement building and creating cross-sector collaboration, interethnic alliances, and helping move this much-needed movement forward. And with that, I would like to introduce to you globally renowned activist, thinker, leader in the food justice movement, social justice movement, who's worked on the ground and continues to work on the ground, supporting seed sovereignty, working with peasants, while simultaneously bringing her knowledge and wisdom to the international realm, which is why she is here tonight. So with that, I would love to introduce Dr. Vandana Shiva.
Well, I would like to understand if you can manage. Thank you so much, Miguel. Thank you, Karen. And thank you all of you for being here. It's been a while since I came to San Francisco, and I'm extremely happy that I'm here at a time where this week-long conference on Justice Begins with Seed is being organized. I started my life as a quantum physicist and thought I would spend all my life doing quantum theory, because when you choose a subject in academics, you live with it all your life. But two things happened that have brought me to the seed from the quanta. The first was a very inspiring movement in my region. I'm from the Himalaya. I've grown up in the Himalaya. My father was a forester, and I saw the forest disappear. And then women of my region came out and said, "We'll hug the trees. You'll have to kill us before you kill the trees." The movement was called Chipko. It became a very positive term for us. Those who would like to destroy forests and ecosystems use tree huggers as a swear word. But I think tree hugging is a wonderful act of solidarity. And, you know, I was doing my quantum theory, but I was also learning biodiversity about the forest, where the women knew every little herb. They knew every species. And the experts knew four, which could be cut down and sold. So I became very, very educated on the issue of biodiversity. Wrote a number of books at that time. In 1984, you know, you've just had the 10th year of 9/11, but in 1984, we had terrorism in the state of Punjab, which was 6 times 9/11. 30,000 people had been killed. That same year, we had the worst industrial disaster in human history in a city called Bhopal, where a pesticide plant owned by Union Carbide leaked, and 3,000 people died. It was 2 a.m. in 2nd December, 2 a.m., cold. Everyone was sleeping in their homes, just killed. And most of them were extremely poor because they were in the slums across the pesticide plant. My sisters of Bhopal are still fighting for justice. It's amazing. I mean, I have such tremendous admiration and respect for them. Since then in Bhopal, 30,000 people have died. So by the end of that year, the question in my mind was, why has agriculture become like war? Why does it have to kill so many people? So I studied this thing called the Green Revolution, which was not green, and it was not revolutionary. It was basically introducing chemicals into Indian agriculture. And it was done by using conditionalities. President Johnson was the president then, and they called it food for peace, but it was food for war. Also because every one of the chemicals came into agriculture from war. Pesticides were war chemicals, herbicides were war chemicals. Even fertilizers were made in the explosive factories of the war. So if you notice one little thing, we've just had bombings in our High Court in Delhi, fertilizer bomb. Oslo bombings, fertilizer bomb. Oklahoma bombings, fertilizer bombs. People are just putting it back to its original use. But it isn't just war in this direct way of annihilating life. And life is not just the human life. I mean, look at the species we have pushed to extinction. Look at, 70% of the bees of this planet are gone. We have an organic farm, and it's so exciting to see all the earthworm population. But you go to a chemical farm, you won't see an earthworm. All you have to do is sprinkle some urea on an earthworm and you'll see what happens to it. But in addition to this, another thing has happened with our agriculture, and that is that our biodiversity has been replaced by monocultures. And because we think in terms of monocultures of the mind, because there's lots of corn and soya, everyone says there's lots of food. But genetically engineered corn and soya is not food. I call it anti-food. Because when food stops nourishing you, it becomes the opposite of what it should be. Similarly, seed, which is the first link in the food chain, has become anti-seed. Seed is supposed to be the source of life. Seed multiplies. Seed reproduces. And seed gets exchanged. Now, when you develop a system where first you stop the exchange because you create new patent laws in the World Trade Organization that turn seed into the property of a handful of corporations, and the biggest seed corporation today in the world is Monsanto. It wasn't in agriculture. Till 20 years ago, it didn't exist in farming. It used to make war chemicals. And today it controls agriculture of the world. It controls more and more research in the world. It definitely controls more and more governments of the world. Your White House and our Prime Minister's office are really extensions of Monsanto. And that's evident from the fact it doesn't matter who sits in power. Ultimately, Monsanto makes the decisions. When I started looking at the Green Revolution, I realized two things. First, that we produced more rice and wheat, and the story everywhere is India moved from a ship-to-mouth existence into food security. Yes, we grew more rice and wheat, but all our other crops disappeared. Most of us are vegetarian in India. If you don't have pulses in your diet, you don't have protein. Disappeared. If you don't have oilseeds in your diet, you can't absorb the nutrients. Oilseeds disappeared. And because of the monoculture of the mind, we are made to look only at the part of a part of a part of a system.